that Shaheen has here.
Yeah, I'm very worried about the fact that most of the stuff going on in this deck is at sorcery speed. You're looking at Smallpox, Damnation, Planeswalkers, and their activations. None of these are that great at interacting at instant speed. There are 4 copies of Dismember in Shaheen's deck, and that, of course, is very helpful.
And with that, we are underway. Ben Friedman on the play. He just makes a land drop. Shaheen will start with Thoughtseize, and we'll see what is Ben's holding. So Ben, land 1 in play. Land 2 is an island. Outside of that, he has a copy of Remand, Pestermite, Spell Snare, Snapcaster Mage, Flame Slash, and Dispel.
Now, Shaheen on a 3-card mulligan here, and you can see how Blue-Red Twin is almost the control deck of the format in a weird way. There's no immediate threat of him winning the game on the 4th turn, but you can look at a handful of removal, counter spells, and Snapcaster Mage. He's going to have a lot of time to get there.
Yeah, one of the interesting things actually about Splinter Twin is because the combo is so low investment. You need to run some Exarchs, you need to run some Splinter Twins. You actually get space to run a lot of counter magic, and it's not uncommon to see a twin player simply Lightning Bolt you, Snapcast their Lightning Bolt, and actually start to present a reasonable clock that way.
Some of these lists, including the Pro Tour winning lists, play with Mendelian Click, which is just another card where you can win a conventional game. It could also provide some disruption, taking their 1 Path to Exile, their 1 Dismember, or whatever their piece of interaction is.
Yeah, second land from Ben is an island. He'll go ahead and pass back. Remember, leaving up copies of both Dispel and Spell Snare, which Shaheen is aware of. And no interaction from Shaheen will send us on to game 2. As you said, it was on a triple mulligan there.
I think a quadruple mulligan. I think
he started with 3 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't hit his 3rd land. The writing is going to be on the wall there pretty quickly for him.
Absolutely. Trying to just conceal what's going on with his deck, too. At this point, Ben might think that Shaheen's on some sort of Obzon strategy based on how he opened up and might sideboard incorrectly.
Yeah, definitely. If you see Godless Shrine and Swamp going in and Thoughtseize, those are all cards that you could reasonably see out of an Obzon deck. He'd be hoping then that Ben might miss sideboard here. That said, let's go ahead and look at Ben's sideboard. It may be that he just boards against all black decks pretty similarly.
2 copies of Sower Temptation, a Jace Architect of Thought, a Batterskull, a Keranos, God of the Storms, a Dispel, 2 Blood Moons, 2 Spellskites, 2 copies of Ancient Grudge, 2 copies of Engineer Explosive, and then Negate. So you might see him just kind of go into the control route here with more counter spells. I think the Keranos is very real to bring in here as well, on top of the Batterskull, possibly Spellskite as well.
Yeah, Spellskite helps to blank some of the removal, which is pretty decent here. It is a way to count, so I would imagine Ben would bring it in for this reason. If he expects Shaheen's on Obzon, Abrupt Decay is one of the cards that's really good against the blue-red twin strategy, and there aren't huge many ways that they can interact with it. Sometimes you'll see players play a copy of Mizium Skins to get around Abrupt Decay, but Spellskite is one of the traditional answers to it. I would imagine he'll bring those in. Obviously, we know that Shaheen doesn't have Abrupt Decay.
But Spellskite just gets a lot of burn in a lot of different matchups.
Right. Should be pretty good here. On Shaheen's side, we're going to go ahead and see what he has here. His sideboard, I'm going to run you through the cards here. 2 Damnation, so you can go all the way up to 4. A Pulse of the Fields, 3 Path to Exile, 2 Core Firewalker, 3 Stony Silence, and 4 Bloodghast.
So I like the 3 copies of Path to Exile here, just more efficient removal. Past that, I don't think the sideboard offers up very much. They're for different matchups here.
Yeah, one thing that you will see with these black modern sideboards is there's a lot of different really linear strategies that are very powerful. So somewhere between 5 to 10 cards of their sideboards really are just earmarked for one matchup. You'll notice that Shaheen's sideboard has 2 copies of Core Firewalker, that's basically for burn, 3 copies of Stony Silence, which is for affinity, and that's a concession that you really have to make to some of the strengths of the format.
Exactly, and Stony Silence is so high impact in its appropriate matchup. Core Firewalker and Pulse of the Fields are so powerful against burn that even if they're narrow, they're going to pull their weight over the course of a 9-round tournament.
Yeah, now I'm interested, a full 4 copies of Bloodghast in his sideboard. I'm assuming that's for attrition matchups, but still, that's the kind of card which you normally would see in a main deck.
You would, but I think it's probably more for matchups like Obzon, where he anticipates we're going to be just trading resources, killing all of each other's stuff, and then Bloodghast is very powerful in those kind of games.
Yeah, and you really have to love that interaction between Bloodghast and Smallpox if he's able to get one off.
Yep. Also, if he runs into some Supreme Verdict decks, which we see every now and again, either blue-white control strategies or blue-white splash red, Bloodghast is probably solid in that matchup as well.
Definitely. So we're going to be on to game 2 shortly here. Shaheen down a game, was on a mulligan to 3. So both players still operating in the dark a fair amount here.
But yeah, exciting tournament here, and great response from the players coming out for this format. I know the people who are passionate about Modern really do love this format, so exciting stuff.
I'll go ahead and say that over the last 2 years, Modern has really been my personal favorite format. I feel like it's a great spot to make powerful plays. I've always wanted to try to play a combo deck, and I really like where combo sits in Modern.
I've been critical at various times about the way that Modern has been managed from an R&D perspective, but for a lot of players, the format just feels right. They want to play in a larger sandbox than Standard. They want to be testing the boundaries of what you can do with Magic decks a little bit, but they don't want to have, you know, the turn 1 kills and the wasteland locks and some of the things about Legacy that people find to be unpleasant. And Modern gets you somewhere in the middle of those two things. You're allowed to push the boundaries of what you can do with Magic decks, but not get blown out, killed on the first turn, play against an opponent with a strategy you just can't interact with. It's a toned down Legacy format. So a lot of players just really enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, and you even see it in the mana base of Modern, right? Modern gets to play with a mana base that's nearly as powerful as the Legacy mana base, but it makes you pay a lot of life for it, which isn't trivial.
Right. No, the opportunity cost on your mana is a lot higher, and I think that's part of the reason that Burn is a player in the format. People's mana bases are priced into dealing 3 to 5 damage to themselves in a lot of matchups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that I played Burn specifically in the one Modern tournament where I did well, but I was playing a Tribal Flame Snapcaster beatdown deck, and yeah, my opponent taking 3-5 points of damage, that was a big deal.
It is interesting. Burn, I think, though, originally, you know, in Legacy, you see Burn as a popular deck, but a deck that does well every once in a while. Interestingly, in Modern, Burn is, I would say, a legitimate tier 1 strategy. It's a very well-constructed deck in this format.
Well, it's a turn 4, and sometimes with your best draw, turn 3 kill in both formats. In Legacy, that's not quite good enough to get the job done, unless your matchups play the right way. But in Modern, that's what the format's about.
It's really funny that you call it that mentioned that it's a turn 3 kill in Modern, because its deck has to have a perfect storm to do it, but the best part is your opponents help you, which makes it a turn 3 kill. I think without your opponents helping you, you really need to have a lot of things go right, but your opponents are always helping you with your life total.
Right. Your absolute perfect draws can still do it, but your opponent is helping you along the way.
All right, well, we are underway for game 2. Shaheen starting off on a Godless Shrine off a fetch land. Ben also just passing back. It looks like actually we'll start with a cantrip here. A lot of positioning in Blue-Red Twin.
To me, I think this is the best thing going on in the format, power level-wise. I think Blue-Red Twin is the objective best deck.
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because our first, if you go back to history of Modern, in 2011, that was your first Modern event. And it was Pro Tour Philadelphia. It was won by Samuele Estradi, playing Blue-Red Twin, almost the same deck. Now, granted, at that time, he had Ponder and Preordain. But this is the deck that won the very first Modern Pro Tour, and yet has not been banned really at all. It's still it remains like this standard of the format.
Yeah.
Thoughtseize will show off Ben's hand. Splinter Twin is taken.
And you can see these players sacrificing their fetch lands at odd times. That's a concession to Shadow of Doubt, which is sort of the stifle of the format. You see some weird fetch land operations as a result of that card.
Yeah, you have to respect it. It's not normally played, but if there's no cost, there's not a real reason to not play around it. The one that they really, or at least for your Ben, you're going to worry about here is Aven Mind Sensor. That's certainly a card that a deck like Shaheen's could be playing. And Shaheen now getting his first Planeswalker into play. It's Liliana of the Veil. She will +1, giving both players to discard cards. A Lingering Souls from Shaheen, but a Deceiver Exarch from Ben. And you notice Ben getting rid of parts of his combo right now. Looks like he still has 1 Pestermite left. Electrolyze in hand as well as Vendilion Click.
And Shaheen, he's carved out a very good game plan here, which is take the Splinter Twin, which is the immediate threat, and then put Ben in the Hurt Locker. Just use these attrition effects to wear him down to the point where he can't really get his combo off.
And I want to show some sequencing from Shaheen here. He's going to go ahead and Thoughtseize before playing his land. So he's going to look at Ben's hand. He knows Ben has a Vendilion Click. If Ben plays the Vendilion Click in response, then Shaheen will go ahead and play his 4th land and he'll go ahead and -2 the Liliana to get rid of the Vendilion Click. So Ben wants to flash into play here, but can't really. See, Shaheen hasn't used the Liliana yet.
And I think that Ben doesn't want to flash in the Vendilion Click under any circumstances, because Shaheen also has the option of plussing Liliana and just flashing back Lingering Souls which puts
Sure.
Vendilion Click in a pretty awkward squeeze. So I think that Vendilion Click is not a card that Shaheen is worried about, given the resources that he has, and not a card that Ben's going to lean on here to really do anything because, again, Shaheen flush with answers.
Yeah. Well, Ben does have right now, have the Lingering Souls covered with Electrolyze, if Shaheen lets him keep it. We see here Ben with 3 creatures. It's Pestermite, Exarch, Vendilion Click, a 4th land in terms of island, and then that Electrolyze. So he does have a setup which Shaheen has to respect, that if Ben just draws Splinter Twin off the top of the deck, he could have a kill as early as next turn.
But it does require Ben to commit one of his creatures to the table right now, which is very dangerous against Shaheen's strategy because Ben can anticipate the creature's just going to die. So it's Ben would ideally like to draw a Splinter Twin and then go for the combo, but Shaheen may not allow him that kind of wiggle room with his resources.
See here, it looks like another Thoughtseize in Shaheen's hand, actually. So, along with Phyrexian Arena. So, we may see more than one card get taken this turn.
Yeah. I mean, Shaheen's deck, I'm not sure if the matchup is good here, but he definitely has a game plan, no doubt about it.
Pestermite will be taken. Shaheen going for the combo pieces. If he's taking Pestermite, you think he's going to come back for the Exarch?
If I'm in his spot, I actually like trying to land the Arena this turn, because Ben's not just going to put the Deceiver Exarch out there hoping to draw Splinter Twin, and you get an opportunity next turn to Thoughtseize.
See, it looks like 4th land, Thoughtseize, and Arena are Shaheen's options.
And given Shaheen's life total here, he's on 15. I think that plussing Liliana here might be better than casting the Thoughtseize anyway, if it's a choice between the two.
Yeah, he may do all. We'll see here. Second Thoughtseize fired off by Shaheen. Down to 13. He'll go ahead and take Electrolyze, it looks like, wanting to protect those Lingering Souls tokens.
And also, at this point, giving Ben a random draw is very dangerous for the strategy that Shaheen's trying to employ here. The more that he can make Ben live off the top, the more Shaheen can just run him out of things to do.
And so Shaheen then plussing Liliana, discards his last card, flashes back Lingering Souls. Ben keeping a hand of just land and Deceiver Exarch. He's going to go ahead and play into that top deck Splinter Twin, flashing Deceiver Exarch in on the end step.
I actually like this play because the way the game's going here, Ben's going to get his entire hand stripped. I think this is his best shot of winning the game, even though it's a low percentage chance. He's only got the 3 twins left in the deck, but it's not getting better for him. Shaheen's running him out of things to do.
Shaheen has a well-protected Liliana at this point. Can Ben draw Splinter Twin? Was not slammed down. Liliana drops down to 4. And Spellskite was the draw for Ben. That actually will give him another shot at drawing Splinter Twin.
Yeah, the next best thing after drawing a Splinter Twin here for Ben is drawing a creature, because the creature protects him from Liliana's Edict effect and gives him one more shot at it.
Yep, Shaheen will make Ben sacrifice the Spellskite. Swings in with 1 creature, and then here comes one of the Bloodghasts out of the sideboard for Shaheen. Exarch attacks again, but now Liliana poised to take care of Deceiver Exarch, and she will do just that. Ben loses his creature, takes 3, goes to 14.
Vault of the Archangel.
Oh, wow.
Got all the old hits here.
So Vault giving Shaheen's creatures Death Touch and Lifelink, that will pull him out of range of any sort of tempo Lightning Bolt strategy that Ben could come up with.
Yeah, Ben has now assembled the combo or bust.
To be fair, Shaheen's out of disruption at this point. If Ben just draws into the combo, he does have a couple turns to draw into it and execute it.
Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom just yet.
Tectonic Edge for Ben. We'll see if he does take care of that Vault. Or maybe just the Godless Shrine.
Yeah, Shaheen's only got the 1 white source of mana, so cutting him off, that's pretty valuable. I think at this point, Ben wants to give himself the opportunity to... He has Remand in hand, so he wants to Remand into a 3-mana creature, be able to play it in 1 turn, and hope to draw Twin again.
Ben down to 8. Second Bloodghast here from Shaheen. Looks like Snapcaster Mage and Remand, Ben's 2 remaining cards. We'll go ahead and go for Snapcaster Mage into Electrolyze here. And see what he chooses to Electrolyze. Remember, those Bloodghasts He's only going to kill one Bloodghast. They do have haste if Shaheen's holding a land in his hand.
And Ben does have a Snapcaster Mage back to block a Bloodghast that can't block a Souls token, so I like doing it that way.
And 6 for Ben. Hand is Remand and one other. We'll go ahead and Tech Edge away the white mana source, so no Godless Shrine for Shaheen. Ben just trying to buy turns to draw into the combo, it looks like here.
Yeah, he's got Remand and Snapcaster Mage back in hand. So he's just hoping that Shaheen casts literally anything, gives him the shot of drawing some cards. Again, he only needs 2 cards to go off, and a lot of his draws give him more time.
And here's the power of Shaheen's graveyard strategy. He takes a whole turn there without actually casting a spell for Ben's Remand. Plays Fetid Heath, that gets Bloodghast back into play, and then activates Vault to the Archangel again.
Was not anticipating Bloodghast coming in this matchup, but I think Shaheen just feels he needs more pressure to back up his removal.
Yeah, and it might be, in this matchup, the thing you never really can do against Twin is tap out. It's a little bit too much of a green light for them. So there's cards like Soorani Solemn Visitor or things like Damnation that I imagine Shaheen boards out and may just want to try to win with Bloodghast instead of Soorani. So that way he never, as you see here, he's never really using his mana.
Right.
You're right, though. On the surface, Bloodghast does seem like an odd sideboard card, but I do like what it's doing for Shaheen here. And here's a lethal attack. Ben's going to have to trade away with the Bloodghast and drop down to 1. He does have a Splinter Twin in hand. Smallpox from Shaheen. Ben will go ahead and Remand that first. Draws into an island. Smallpox. Both players sacrifice a land, a creature, a card, and to lose a life. That'll be enough that Ben can't combo here. And we'll be on to game number 3.
And Shaheen ended up doing a very nice job of playing around Remand that game. It never ate his whole turn.
Yeah.
You want to get into a spot where Remand is just, they cycle and you can recast your spell immediately.
Yeah.
When it eats your whole turn, that's when the card's at its peak.
And Ben on the last turn actually did give himself a number of outs. Had that Remand hit one of his creatures, he would have had just enough cards to still pull off a twin combo there.
For all of the beatdowns Ben took that game, his resources got stripped away. He got Thought Seized a bunch of times. He was still not that far off from going off. A real testament to the resilience of this deck.
Yeah. The deck is decent at playing around discard, mainly because it has a lot of redundancy in it. You see four copies of Deceiver Exarch, 2 copies of Pestermite, 4 copies of Splinter Twin, and 4 copies of Serum Visions to help put those pieces together.
Another benefit is your opponent is rarely going full throttle at you because they have to leave up mana holding up their removal spells.
They really can't.
Or their counter spells, because at a moment's notice, you can just win the game. We saw Ben there. He still could have won the game on the 4th turn through all those Thought Seizes if he just drawn Splinter Twin on the appropriate turn.
Yeah, and I think this is actually one of the interesting things you see in Modern, and it's been talked about a bit, is that as far as like the disruptive decks, your control decks, in Legacy, when I'm playing a combo deck, I expect to play against cards like Daze, like Force of Will. Blue, I expect blue mana to come out against me. Whereas the control decks in Modern, the black disruption is actually a lot more powerful than the blue disruption. The black decks can bring in, they have Thoughtseize, Inquisition of Kozilek, cards like Liliana, which actually are pretty good as a lot of the combos are creature based.
Well, they sort of fill different roles in my opinion. I think the black cards, Thoughtseize and Inquisition, they're a lot more surgical and efficient at just disrupting. The counter spells allow you to trade mana for mana, to just bypass turns of the game towards whatever your late game is, whether it's firing off a 2-card combo, whether it's getting to Cryptic Command plus Snapcaster Mage and really locking up the game. So I agree with you that the black cards are much better at, if you're just interested in disrupting your opponent, the black cards are more efficient than the blue cards, but the blue cards trading mana for mana come with some merits as well. Yeah,
I guess there's not a heavy counter spell deck that you expect to come up against from a control side. There's not that player's just gonna fight a big counter war with you over your combo.
Yeah, I think the big thing from my perspective in the difference between Modern and Legacy is the fact that because there's no Brainstorm and there's no Ponder, the decks are just less resilient at fighting through discard than their Legacy analogs are.
Yeah, they can't go find whatever they were trying to cast again.
Your Thoughtseize is just resolved. They're finding the best card. your opponent's not hiding it with Brainstorm. And your opponent doesn't get to just rip Brainstorm and suddenly have an entirely new hand.
Right. So they can't hide their cards from your Thoughtseize, and they can't go get other copies as easily.
Exactly. So even though Thoughtseize, the text box doesn't change between Modern and Legacy, the surrounding cards make it more potent in Modern than in Legacy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things. So the first Modern Pro Tour, we had Ponder and Preordain both legal. And I think what a lot of players learned, if you ever look at the decks from that event, is it was a bunch of players trying to combo each other, all being faster than the other one. Most people started with turn 3 combo decks. The breakout deck of the event was Infect Shoal because it was a turn 2 combo deck. And really, the elephant in the room was that these 1-mana cantrips are just extraordinarily powerful. And now that they both got banned after the event, and now Serum Visions is really your premier cantrip in Modern. And after that, there's not much to go to. Sleight of Hand is the next best one, and that one rarely good enough to see play.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people get tracked by, the cards are just 1-for-1s. They just replace themselves. People made that argument. The same thing is true of Demonic Tutor.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of cards. There's a lot of cards in Magic's history which are they are 1-for-1s, but the power level is not acceptable for most formats. And Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm, they're all in that camp. It's fine for the Eternal formats, but if they were legal in Modern, they would be part of the best thing that's going on. Whatever that happens to be, those cards would be part of it.
And we are underway game 3. Shaheen on the play starts off Godless Shrine and turn 2 Bloodghast.
And if Ben put Shaheen on the draw, that's a very interesting decision. First of all, it means he definitely has some number of spell snares in his deck at this point. It looks like he only has 1 through his 75, but it is in his hand. And I think that he just wants a little more cushion for all the discard he's playing against. If Shaheen's
That's really interesting.
If Shaheen's deck starts on turn 3 with something like Phyrexian Arena, Lingering Souls, Liliana the Veil, you can really maximize the power of Remand by putting your opponent on the play in those games. I don't know if I would have the guts to do it, but I understand the logic.
As it turns out, Shaheen's 2-drop was a card you don't really want to spell snare. It was Bloodghast. Ben just makes a second land here. That Heath the play. Shaheen does have that Phyrexian Arena you were mentioning. And this is really Shaheen's last turn where he can tap out for something. After this, he runs a real big risk.
Yeah.
So he had the choice between Arena and Liliana. He'll go back to the Planeswalker that served him so well last game. It's going to be Liliana of the Veil.
And you can see some reservation on Shaheen's side of the table for playing anything at all because it's so bad for him if Ben has Remand. But at some point, he's just got to cast his sorceries.
Right.
He's got to cast his enchantments, his planeswalkers. He can't sit there forever.
Ben certainly has gone bigger. He has lands all up through 6 in his hand, it looks like. Thought Scour, Spell Snare, and the Jace Architect of Thought out of the board looks like it's come in.
Yeah, another piece of just weathering the storm of attrition.
Yeah, it's a good card advantage engine. Actually serves a pretty interesting role in the Splinter Twin Mirror as well, as they cannot combo with Deceiver Exarch in play if you have one.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and Thought Scour himself. Shaheen +1's the Liliana with the trick here. He's going to discard a Bloodghast off it.
Ooh, combo deck.
Not playing fair at all.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. In a turn 4 format, in a format where we say we don't want people dying on turn 3, Liliana plussing and putting a Bloodghast in your graveyard, that's pretty fair.
Ben finds one of his combo pieces this turn. It looks like it's Deceiver Exarch as the draw. Do not believe he has the Splinter Twin half yet. At the same time, I'd be very surprised if Shaheen were to not leave up mana from here on out. He's got a great board presence right now. 2 Bloodghasts. His draw for the turn was a Smallpox as well.
Smallpox, another card that incentivizes Ben to put Shaheen on the play.
Liliana's going to plus here. And Shaheen's gonna, I mean, he's really going to town with these Bloodghasts right now, getting value. If he's able to cast that Smallpox, which I think we'll see him do, he'll get to go ahead and sacrifice a Bloodghast to it to get them all back. And actually keeping Ben off mana is pretty relevant for Shaheen.
He can't do anything until he gets to 4.
Right.
I mean, he can do stuff, but none of it really matters.
Land, Smallpox, Phyrexian Arena, the remaining cards for Shaheen. Remember though, Ben at the ready with the Spell Snare there. Bloodghast will attack. Ben gonna go ahead and flash a blocker into play. This is gonna play into Shaheen's hand pretty well, except Ben, heads up play here, goes ahead and untaps his Steam Vents, so he'll get to keep Spell Snare up.
Yeah, and that's really good if Shaheen's follow-up here is Smallpox.
Yeah, Ben could not Spell Snare faster. Smallpox is the play for Shaheen. It gets Spell Snared. Shaheen makes land number 4, brings back both Bloodghasts, and passes.
And that was a twin off the top.
And Splurgeon off top gets it. Ben Friedman in 3 defeats Shaheen Soorani.
Very well navigated there. And I like Ben going for it. Again, it looks like he's just rolling the dice, but given the nature of Shaheen's deck, the amount of discard, there's an active Liliana in play. He can't sit on a bunch of cards and wait for the perfect moment. He's just got to go for it.